You've been a marketing leader for a while, you've grown through the ranks, you actually owned your own business, and then you came into full-time marketing, you were a CMO as well, and now you're a director of growth marketing at NContracts. So I just wanted to understand how marketing has evolved in your eyes.
I did. I started my own business about 15, 20 years ago. I got into content production and video production. Yeah, I think the more technology we have, the more complex it gets. People are smart. They can tell when things are auto-generated or automated. And I think prospects now don't want to necessarily just see a list of features. I think they want to understand how what you're doing helps them.
Hey, are we over-investing in certain channels? Should we kill certain channels? How has that evolved?
Yeah, I think for us, there are some things that we always invest in, and for us, that's content. We're big believers in sort of knowledge as a service and being able to provide that education to our prospects. And so that's been a big impact for us, understanding where we appear and where we don't and how that impacts our bottom line. At the end of the day, it's about ROI.
Like, how important do you think that single source of truth is across the GTM function?
To me, it's absolutely been worth the time because I think having a single source of truth for us has been pivotal. But it is necessary. And I think as a marketing leader, as a data person, you have to understand where you're winning and losing. And
Till everyone is talking about AI and Agentic AI, has there been in your experience, a moment where you said, hey, AI has really shifted everything?
in a couple of different ways, and it's really created an impact for us and gained some efficiencies without reducing any human headcount. For me, I've leaned into the AI stuff as much as I can because I know that that's such an important part of what we do moving forward. It's an area I want to make sure I fully understand. But at the end of the day, I think it's ultimately about human connection, and those are the things we want.
In terms of technology, what is your perspective on build versus buy?
I think by nature, I'm a hands in the dirt kind of builder. And so we spend a lot of time building and finally got to the point where I just had to say, look, we've tried and we can't. We can get 65% of the way there, but to get the other 35%, we need to buy.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the CMO Moneyball series, where we interview marketing leaders on the art and science of marketing. I'm very excited to be joined by Jason Beddall of NContracts, who we've known for a while. Jason is also a customer of RevSure, but today he's here to share with us his learnings on marketing and how it's evolved over the years. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Great. So, Jason, we'll kick it off with just trying to understand your overall journey. You've been a marketing leader for a while, you've grown through the ranks, you actually owned your own business, and then you came into full time marketing. You were a CMO as well, and now you're a director of growth marketing at NContracts. To understand how your career has evolved and specifically how marketing has evolved in your eyes.
Yeah, I did. I started my own business about 15, 20 years ago. I got into content production and video production, big into storytelling and things like that. And that naturally evolved into how I armed my customers with the content I created and where they put it and what they did with it. So that evolved into marketing, and my career sort of just evolved there. I spent a lot of time in agencies,
Mhm.
doing marketing agency work and leading marketing agencies and having hundreds of clients at a time, juggling some of that. And then about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I landed in a more kind of direct marketing role in organizations and led single brands. And it has been sort of an evolution, but excited to be here where I'm at now.
Got it. No, that's great. And there's a lot of focus, or at least over the past, let's say, a decade, there's been a lot of focus on performance marketing, growth marketing. How do you grow channels? How do you figure out new avenues of acquiring customers, attracting them, building relationships with them? How, in your experience, has this whole channel strategy, and as you lead growth marketing and end contracts, and even prior, how has that evolved in terms of the complexity, or in how do you actually go about it?
Yeah, I think the more technology we have, the more complex it gets. We see AI and we see a lot of this automation really helping us gain efficiencies, 5 and 10xing the human element of what we already have. And that's been important. But I think when we start reaching out to customers, I think maybe the assumption or the default is that we can just automate it. And I think we're seeing a shift back to more personalized touch and outreach to customers and prospects. People are smart and they can tell when things are auto generated or automated and AI focused generated. And so I think we're starting to see that shift back to personal outreach and personal interaction. I don't think we've quite nailed it here at NContracts, but I think we're getting there. It's definitely an area we're working on.
Got it, got it. And especially since you started your career in storytelling, we hear a lot about storytelling being back, crafting
Mhm.
the right narrative being a core aspect of marketing. and the brand aspect being back as well, right? So brand being a key differentiator. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you think about the trade-off between brand and performance marketing, how have you struck that balance, or how has your organization struck that balance in the companies you've been at?
Hmm. I don't know if we strike it well. We try. At the end of the day, it's about ROI and pipeline and bookings in, and that can make brand difficult. It can make it difficult to provide an ROI to, a dollar amount to, and I think that's part of where some of the stuff we're doing with Resher has come in and helped. But for me, like, brand is a big deal. It is how I got started, and I think prospects now don't want to necessarily just see a list of features.
Mhm.
I think they want to understand how what you're doing helps them, how it takes a burden off of their plate, how it helps them expand their team, how they can do more without more human headcount, or they can gain efficiencies. And so I think for us, it is about identifying those problems and those pain points, and being able to tell that story around it versus just listing features and data.
Got it. So essentially relating to the customer's day in the life and their pain
Yeah,
points being at the forefront of whether you do brand or you do performance marketing, right?
yeah.
Got it. And how in your career has the metrics that you've kind of focused on, let's say in your current organization, every marketing team today is responsible for pipeline, but you also have to kind of justify the ROI while meeting
Hmm.
pipeline generation targets, and also kind of responsible for revenue. How have the metrics, especially the leading metrics that you kind of track in your funnel or in your overall GTM motion, changed? And how is that conversation when you have these conversations with the CROs or with the CFOs? How has that changed or matured in the way that you've gone about it?
That's a good question. I think obviously with the AI coming into the picture and SEO being impacted by that,
Mhm.
that is definitely an area that we have kind of doubled down on and understanding where we land in the GEO world. And so that's been a big impact
Mhm.
for us in understanding where we appear and where we don't and how that impacts our bottom line. But ultimately, I don't know that the metrics change. It is top of the funnel. It is how many people we're getting to the website, how we're converting those people,
Mhm.
uh, how those people are turning into pipeline and customers. I don't know that it changes. It feels a little tried and true. The core metrics don't often change, but how we report them do. Um, Part of what we've been working on in the last year is understanding not just a, a last touch model of, where do we assign that pipeline, for lack of a better term, but really how everything we do impacts that bottom line. How many touches content gets, or how many webinars somebody attends, or an in-person event, and really understanding how all of that drives a sale.
Got
And
it.
so that's been a shift for us.
Got it. And in that process, has there been a shift in also how you think about channel investments? So, for example, now we hear a lot about how marketing um, teams are really operating like suicide squad. They have to be ready to kind of assess channels and the mix of channels and then see, hey, are we over investing in certain channels? Should we kill certain channels? How has that evolved? Because there's always a danger of killing channels prematurely or reducing investment
Mhm.
prematurely, because you need to understand what's the right mix. So, how do you guys approach that?
Yeah, I think for us, there are some things that we always invest in, and for us, that's content. We're big believers in sort of knowledge as a service and being able to provide that education to our prospects. That's an area where I think we're always going to lean into. But for us, especially from a paid perspective, uh, having the data we have now has really impacted how we shift focus and platform, especially. It's allowed us to be more nimble, I think,
Hmm.
with the dollars we spend,
Mhm.
that we didn't have a year ago or 2 years ago.
Got it. Got it. So, and it seems that nowadays there's a lot of over indexing on the concept of AEO. I think that's kind of like you also mentioned, you have to be cognizant of that, because customers are definitely going into channels like ChatGPT, etc., trying to research the
Hmm.
company, and then you have to kind of optimize content.
Hmm.
But still, the majority of their business is still coming from traditional performance marketing channels, right? Whether that's SEO
Yep.
or that's paid, etc., as well as content syndication, right? So are you seeing that there's a significant shift in investment from these traditional performance marketing channels into AEO, or is it really addition of investment?
For us, it's an additional investment. I don't. We have a pretty solid understanding of how the performance marketing side impacts our bottom line,
Yeah.
and we want to spend more money there. Having the data we have now has really allowed us to say, oh, this is working over here. We're going to push the gas pedal down a little bit. We're going to pull back over here. But from a search engine, from an AI perspective, it really has been an additional spin for us, and we're sort of dipping our toe in the water isn't a great term, but we're dipping in a little bit and making sure we understand how it impacts things and where the money gets spent.
Got it. Got it. We'll switch gears towards AI because everyone is talking about AI and agentic AI. Has there been in your experience, a moment where you said, "Hey, AI has really shifted everything for you in your role"?
Yeah, I think in a couple of different ways. I know from a content perspective, it's allowed us to really, really gain some efficiencies there.
Hmm.
We have some very, very talented content people, and it's allowed them to sort of build their own brain through these agents and 5x and 10x their output there. So it's really helped us turn up our content machine quite a bit. We've also seen some efficiencies gained in how our SDR team operates and functions. So we've really leaned into the agentic AI stuff in a couple of different ways, and it's really created an impact for us and gained some efficiencies without reducing any human headcount.
Got it. So I think content definitely is a place where AI and Gen AI is really having an impact. Are you guys thinking about a roadmap or like what's your next application area of where you can kind of deploy agentic AI, whether that's your team or whether that's your broad GTM team? Are there like low hanging fruits or like high priority agentic AI application areas that you're thinking about?
We have a little bit of a roadmap. I know our SEO team and our web team has a roadmap to leverage some of that. I think for me in performance marketing, it really is about how we nurture people properly and effectively, dialing it in to make sure it feels as natural as possible. We've done a good job using agentic AI to handle some of our inbound stuff. But I think the next step for us is understanding how to better answer questions and provide value to people who maybe come to our website and ask questions and are seeking some of that information. I don't think we're there yet, but for us, it is about, I think the next step is about providing that knowledge and that service, leveraging agentic
Got it.
marketing.
Makes sense. And as you think about, it seems that agentic AI adoption is only going to increase. So if you think about the marketing leader of the future, what do you think are the skill sets or the new skill sets that it'll take to kind of become successful in the future, right? Because you have to kind of, there's a lot of talk about in the marketing community about, getting, not losing the basics of marketing, but then you also have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
evolve with how agentic AI works and how these agent works and Gen AI works. What skill sets would you advise aspiring marketing leaders to essentially inculcate?
Yeah, I don't think AI is going anywhere. To your point, I think that is the skill set for me I've leaned into and what I typically recommend to folks I talk to. There is a core set of marketing skills you have to have. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to understand data. You have to be willing to take risks. But I think moving forward, you've also got to be able to prompt. You've got to be able to develop agents. You've got to be able to roadmap of what's next.
Mhm.
You've got to be able to understand AI at a basic level to be able to function.
Got it. No, absolutely. So, are there any marketing leaders or marketing community you look up to when you kind of think about, hey, that's an example of great marketing, or that's an example of great use of AI in marketing, that other people can also kind of try to learn from?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a group of folks that I try to follow around through, events and LinkedIn and things like that. I'm fascinated by some of the go-to-market leaders at Qualified and how they're developing and using their own tool to further agentic AI. And, that's the sort of stuff that is fascinating to me. As somebody who's been in marketing for a long time, it feels a little bit like a old dog and new tricks
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
And so for me, I've leaned into the AI stuff as much as I can because I know that that's such an important part of what we do moving forward that it's an area I want to make sure I fully understand.
got it. And do you feel that buying agents are going to take over? Like when you develop content or when marketing teams are interacting with, hey, someone that comes to your website and it's actually a buyer agent on the website, do you think that's kind of taking steam? Do you see that happening in your business? Like, bots kind of coming and filling forms and trying to kind of download white papers and consume content?
I would say I see it happening. We don't see it happening a lot simply because I think of the industry we're in.
Yeah.
It's a pretty heavily regulated financial industry here in the U.S. and so AI has been a bit slow to be adopted by some of those institutions. So we're starting to see that. We're starting to see some of that fear and uncertainty from those institutions. But I don't think we don't see that a lot right now. But I could see it coming.
Got it. No, no, absolutely. There's a lot of talk about how buyer agents are going to starting to rule the roost. And so the dark
Hmm.
funnel will probably become even more darker because you're not going to be talking to a human being as the buyer for a long while into the buying cycle. So
Yeah.
let's see how that evolves. In terms of technology, what is your perspective on build versus buy? So we've been talking to a lot of enterprise CMOs, etc. And I think the direction from the CFOs has been try to build as much as possible internally or try to use your current technology stack as much as possible versus buy and buy only if it's kind of 10x better, right?
Yeah.
So what's your thought process on when you want to build, when you want to buy, and the trade-offs between the both?
I think by nature I'm a hands in the dirt kind of builder, and so we went through that process here at NContracts. We very much did the hey, we need to solve problem X. Let's use our existing tech stack to build it, and we spent a lot of time building, and finally got to the point where I just had to say, look, we've tried and we can't. We can get 65% of the way there, but to get the other 35%, we need to buy, and that's the point we got to. So I will always, I think, default to let's see what we can build.
Hmm.
Um, some of that is my nature. Some of that is budget related, and depending on the size of the organization, that probably matters too. Um, but for me, I will always default to build versus buy.
Got it.
But understanding the human capital and the human time involved and cost of my team trying to build something versus the cost of just buying it is something that's always really front of mind for me. I try to be aware of sort of that pivot point where it stops being a savings on me and my team and starts being a net negative cost for us.
Got it. Got it. So then any technology you decide to buy is definitely technology worth it then because you would have already thought through whether you can build it internally or not.
Yep.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for us it really is. Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, for us, we don't typically jump into any sort of purchase relationship without having tried to build something or vetted something as thoroughly as possible. We're a pretty slow to buy place. We try to be. I think in any SaaS org, maybe it doesn't always feel like we're slow to buy. We have to move pretty quickly, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean we don't pull the trigger quickly. Anything we purchase is definitely been we've tried to build it and it's been vetted for sure.
Got it. Got it. No, well said. And coming back to what RevShow touches on, this whole concept of a single source of truth. Like, how important do you think that single source of truth is across the GTM function? I remember that one of the conversations we were having is that you were able to identify hidden pipeline, like maybe a couple of $1 million or so that was not visible to you earlier, just by stitching together a lot of the data across the funnel.
Hmm.
How important is that single source of truth for you as a marketing leader, and how important is it to actually spend the time creating something like that?
To me, it's absolutely been worth the time because I think having a single source of truth for us has been pivotal. We now feel like we have a place where we can all go and look at the same data and understand the same metrics and the same funnel data that we see, and we're all making decisions based off of the same thing. It's been really important for us. The other part of it is, as a marketing leader, you work cross functionally with so many other departments. And this has allowed us to work more closely with our rev ops, our sales side, and even the finance side a little bit. But having a single source of truth that even other departments can come to and sort of lean into, that's allowed us to have much more informed conversations across different departments. Um, it's allowed us all to be a lot more efficient, I think, and effective in what we do. And to your point, identifying places that are generating pipeline that maybe we didn't know about, um,
Mm.
or we weren't able to get granular enough to really identify the key points there.
Got it. No, makes complete sense. And if you think about the next 10 years, or let's say even the next 5 years, right, and you were to advise marketers, what interesting tactics, marketing tactics, growth tactics would you have you seen or experienced in your recent past that you think are going to kind of be really, really useful for marketers to try and adopt? I know it's kind of a general question, but anything that has stood out for you, like in our business, we found that engaging with users on a primary survey basis actually
Hmm.
is a great channel to drive awareness as well as to drive demand, right? So we've been able to
Yeah.
drive pipeline just trying to understand our customers and their day in the life, but then that interaction itself creates an awareness, right? So that was something new to me. So what anything that has kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things we really try and do is understand our buyer. We employ a lot of people who have done those jobs in the past, and so we're able to speak to sort of what a day in the life looks like for them.
Hmm.
Uh, to me, it's the shift, sort of the pivot from AI. Like there is a place for it, and there is an extremely good use case for it in agentic marketing. But at the end of the day, I think it's ultimately about human connection, and those are the things we want. The people who buy our product want to know that we understand what they're going through. The people who buy your product want to understand that you know what they're going through. You've been there, you understand it, and you can speak to the ins and outs of it. People want to feel that connection, and I think figuring out ways to do that while on the flip side gaining efficiencies through agentic AI and things like that. I think that's going to be the key going forward. There's that pivot of sort of the cold outreach. I think is maybe going away a little bit.
Mm.
Phones are harder to get through to. Our inboxes are all filled with spam and cold emails, and I think the more you can figure out how to personalize the message and connect on a human level, I think you're going to be ahead of the curve.
Got it. Got it. Very interesting. And my last question, because we are in RevShore is in the business of attribution, are a believer in attribution, let me assume, but there's a whole market out there who doesn't like the word attribution. So how would you explain and articulate the value of attribution either way, right? And how, like, whether you like it, not like it, is it a necessary evil?
that's
How do you think about
that's a
that from?
good question. A necessary evil is interesting. For me, one of my least favorite conversations is about who gets credit for what.
Yeah.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, if somebody on our team wins, then we all win. And so, um, attribution is a little bit of a like a plus and minus for me, but it is necessary. I mean, you have to have it. At the end of the day, if you want to be effective at what you do, you have to understand dollars in versus dollars out, and where to best allocate those funds and people resources. Uh, and so it is absolutely necessary. And I think for us, we spent probably a year and a half trying to build that ourselves,
Mhm.
um, and got to the point where we realized, we could get most of the way there, but not all the way there. And we really want to be able to dig into sort of the deep weeds of what performs for us and what resonates with our prospects. Um, I wouldn't call it a necessary evil, but it is necessary. And I think as a marketing leader, as a data person, you have to be a data person, and you have to understand where you're winning and losing. And I don't think you can allocate resources and dollars properly if you don't.
Got it. Got it. No, that's great. Very well articulated, Jason. Thanks for sharing that. And with that, I think it's been great having you on this
Yeah,
episode. And thanks for sharing all your learnings from the trenches. And if people want to reach out to you, how should they connect with you?
yeah, they can reach me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Jason Beddall, or they can email me at jason.beddall@ncontracts.com.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Perfect.
This has been great.
Great. Thank you. Till next time.